I want to talk about Only Lovers Left Alive. 2013 slice of life vampire film. I really enjoy it. I like the music. It's got a very grungy feel to it, which suits the setting of Detroit, the Detroit wasteland, very well. I like the cinematography. It's quite unusual. Wide panning shots of interiors and top-down silhouettes. I am a little bit off kilter at the moment because I actually technically already did this recording, but fucking thing didn't record. So now I'm doing it again. Okay. I'm fine. I like the characters. The two main characters, Adam and Eve, which I've learnt harkens to Mark Twain's The Diaries of Adam and Eve, which I've not read nor even heard of before today. Adam is depressed and suicidal. Apparently always has been, because he's extremely artistic. He's a musician. And he is bereft by the state of the world and what the humans, or he calls zombies, are doing to it. How they're polluting the planet and their own blood, which for a vampire is kind of the point. Then there's Eve, his wife, who is the optimistic one and does her best to keep him grounded. I feel like if he didn't have Eve, he wouldn't see the point of going on anymore. Please, if you haven't seen the film, I highly recommend that you do just once. And I do it at the end of a tiring day, because it's a very relaxing film, and if you're het up, you won't be able to sit still and enjoy it, believe me. And I can't remember where I was. Why do I keep doing this? Yeah. The film starts out in two different locations. Detroit is the main setting, it's where Adam lives, but we also see Eve in Tangier, where she stays with another vampire, John Hurt, whom they call Marlowe, who's very, very old, even for a vampire. I mean, like, physically old, because it's John Hurt, God rest him. The thing I like about Adam is that he's very much grounded in the past. All his technology is from at least 40 years ago, 70s, at the latest, I think. He's a musician, which I've already said, but he's a current musician, and he lives in anonymity, largely because he's a vampire. And he has one outside contact other than Eve, and that is his producer, Ian, who is the only zombie that Adam actually likes. And gets him pretty much anything he asks for, including vintage guitars and a wooden bullet. As you know, he's suicidal. I've been led to believe that people didn't like this film very much, but what I've discovered are very mixed reviews. People who think it's absolutely brilliant and others who think it's absolute dreck. That's because it is a very eclectic film. I like it because it's full of literary references, the type of music I like, interesting cinematography, vampires. And frankly, I'm very much grounded in the past, much like Adam. So it resonated with me on a particularly personal level, I think. Much like Adam, I don't particularly like what the humans are doing to the planet either. And I'm not convinced that I'm actually helping. But let's not talk about that. Otherwise, I'll just go on a very long-winded tangent about things of which I actually do not have much knowledge of. One of the complaints that people have is that not much happens, which is fair enough. I think there are, I suppose, only 2 or 3 major plot points, and it's a 2-hour film. Ask me what they fill in between, and I couldn't tell you. It's all very slow paced. Definitely slice of life. It's slice of a vampire's life. It reminds me a lot of Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice, capturing the existential dread of living forever, of running out of things to do, or just being doomed to watch the earth disintegrate around you because people don't seem to notice what they're doing. But again, not talking about that. Don't want to talk about that. I don't like talking about that. Don't even like thinking about it, which is part of the problem. That's the thing about this film, though, is it does make you think, which is one of the things I do like about it. Another complaint that people had is that it's too dark. That every scene is shot at night. But when you think about it, it's a vampire film. A film about vampires. You know, the mythological creatures who will burn in sunlight, daylight. Of course it's set at night. Of course every scene is shot at night. And it's not that dark. Because frankly, they spend a lot of time indoors and the lights are on. I don't know what people want from this, to be honest. I really enjoyed it. And I keep saying stuff like that, but that doesn't mean anything. I've got to actually give comprehensive facts. Although that's not really my forte, and the temperature just dropped in here. It's 14 degrees. Fuck, it's cold. 14 degrees, centigrade. Celsius? The British one. I don't fucking know. It's cold, okay? Oh, that's interesting. On my thermometer, someone's actually written along the side the American Fahrenheit one, so it's 30 degrees for those of you overseas. That is interesting. I was going to cover the plot points of Only Lovers Left Alive, but I'm not sure that's entirely relevant to what I'm trying to say, whatever it is I'm trying to say. I suppose what I'm doing is trying to convince you to give it a shot, or at least break it down into parts. Parts of what? I don't know. I just like talking about films that I like. I like breaking them up, paring them down to see how they work. I'm not good at engineering or taking apart electronics or anything else, but I can take apart films thematically and narratively. And while I see why people would not like Only Lovers Left Alive, because it's too slow, not much happens, or it's too dark, it's boring, quote unquote, I like that I can see past that. The fact that it's a good film to watch if you just want to relax or go to sleep. It's a good film to fall asleep to. You don't feel like you've missed anything. I like that it caters to a lot of different ideals and tastes, like for music or literature, history, ecology, human nature. I like the fact that in many ways the vampires aren't so different from us. Just their world is flipped around, that's all. Also they eat us, but whatever, let's skip over that. They still do things. They still live lives. Even if they're not technically speaking alive. That concept isn't actually covered in the film, which I quite like. I feel like it's one that's overused. Are they alive or are they dead? Do they have souls? Do they not? It's not something that was covered, and I like that because there's a bit too much existential dread in it already. I could have written about this film, but I have difficulty dividing up parts of my own life. I suppose that's one of the reasons why I break down films. Stories. At some point I do want to talk about books. I'm looking at my books right now. There's a lot of them. I need to sort them out. Freaking mess at the moment. Well, relatively. But yeah, Only Lovers Left Alive. If I were to give it a rating, I suppose that's something I could start doing. Not that my opinion really counts for much. I give it probably a 7 or an 8 out of 10. And that's from somebody who has a soft spot for slice of lives where nothing much happens. I do like other films too, and I will talk about them, I suppose, if you'd like me to. Sorry if I sound a bit morose. I actually can't remember if I mentioned this already in this video or not, or if I did it in the last time I tried when the recording didn't work, but this week has been extremely tiring. So I had to go away on Wednesday for a hospital appointment. Turned out that nothing was wrong, but I have a wisdom tooth coming through that got infected, and I didn't get to see the dentist until yesterday, and they tell me that they can't remove it yet because I need to get a specialist to do it, because otherwise I run the risk of permanent nerve damage because my wisdom tooth is coming out in the direction of my jaw and pressing right up against the nerve. It is swollen and it hurts all the time. Or even now. And I forgot I got a cup of tea, and it's going cold. And it's stuck to the fucking coaster. Fuck you. Okay. Oh yeah, that is almost cold. Lukewarm. Not nice. So I'll finish up here pretty quick. So Only Lovers Left Alive is a vampire slice of life, which is very musically oriented. With... Oh, my mind's gone blank. Why does it keep doing that? It covers issues of suicide, human nature, existential dread, and just living. Just living has become a sort of catchphrase of mine now. I've got a unfinished story of 5 chapters called Just Living, because it was something that my protagonist said in it. I wrote that 4 years ago and I didn't even notice. But yeah, just living. I think that's what most people strive for these days, is to just live. I'm happy spending 90% of my time in my room watching YouTube videos, reading books, drawing people I will never meet, writing stories about things I will never do, and going to my job every once in a while. I am very happy just living like this. I suppose if there is a message in this somewhere, it's that some people do have potential to be great. But I also think that some people may need to accept that maybe where they are is good enough, at least for now. For a very long time I suffered from the grass is always greener syndrome, where I always thought, oh, the next place will be better. And it was... Sometimes it was, but it had its major problems. And in some ways it was a lot worse. But again, not talking about that today. Talking about Only Lovers Left Alive. But this is the sort of thoughts that that film will bring up in me. It really makes me think, and I like films that make me think. I do not like films that make my brain hurt, or that require me to switch my brain off in order to enjoy it. That's not what films should be. In fact, that's not what anything should be. Yes, I've described Only Lovers Left Alive as a film that you could probably fall asleep to without missing much. which I suppose is quite a contradiction, but also it does depend per person. I can be half asleep with it on in the background and still get a lot out of it, because it's just so low-key. That it doesn't ask for anything more than what I can give, is basically, I suppose, what I'm saying. And in that, it's a beautiful film. And I'm definitely giving it an 8 out of 10, I think. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've rambled a lot in this one. I think. I actually don't know. 17 minutes. Not so bad. Probably not on point for most of it. But if you got anything out of this, I'll be happy. And if you do watch the film, please do let me know what you think of it. I may have been talking out my ass, at least from other people's perspective on the film, but I still love it. It's definitely one of my favourites. I don't like picking top 10s or top 5s or anything like that, but if I had to, I'd say it was in my top 10 favourite films. But probably not my top 5. Anyway. Thank you for watching. This has been, I don't know what, some kind of review, I suppose. Or just my thoughts on insert title of film here. Yeah.